So favoritism does not mean preferences. So it doesn't mean that you can't have preferences. So if you go to an ice cream shop, you don't have to say, I love all colors of every flavor equally. All ethnic foods are equally the same to me. It's not wrong to have preferences. It's not even wrong to prefer to spend your time with certain groups of people, certain people as opposed to other people. You know why I say that? Jesus didn't divide his day equally for every single person in his life. He focused a lot on the 12, but even the 12, the 3, and beyond the 12, the 70. He didn't just give himself to everybody equally. It wasn't like open office hours. And so preferences, even how you spend your time with people, that's not the issue of favoritism. So it's not preferences in terms of the food that you like. It's not preferences even in terms of the people that you are spending time with. This is what favoritism means. Favoritism is to make a superficial judgment, value judgment on the person at the expense of another person. In other words, you give preferential treatment to one person that comes at the expense of another. So if you're a company and your boss says, you know what? I just don't like people who are not funny. So from now on, we are only going to hire funny people. That is favoritism, because what he is doing is that he is choosing funny people at the expense of unfunny people to be a part of his company. Or let's make it even more nefarious. What if he said, I just want to hire Asians because I'm Asian. And I just want to hang out with Asians because they're Asian. That is favoritism, because now you have chosen Asians at the expense of whom now? Non-Asian. Do you see? That's the difference between favoritism versus preferences. Favoritism comes at the expense of other people when you show honor to one group of people. So why is favoritism a big deal to James? Well, let's look at verse 1, chapter 2. My brothers, show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. The word partiality means to receive the face of a person. So look at a person's face and make a judgment. I'm going to receive this person based on how they appear to me, or I'm not going to receive that person based on how they appear to me. It's to make a superficial distinction amongst people and showing honor to one person at the expense of another. That's partiality. Now, again, partiality doesn't mean that, let's say you actually get to know a person and you find out this person is a criminal. It doesn't mean you have to treat a person who's a proven criminal the same way you treat your spouse. Oh, I can't show partiality. This person ripped me off. I'm going to keep doing business. That's not what it's talking about, right? Do you understand the difference? It's not talking about discernment. You should have discernment. It is wise to have discernment. You shouldn't be naive. It's like, I trust everybody equally. You shouldn't trust everybody equally, right? There should be discernment. But again, favoritism is not discernment or preferences. It is superficial look and making a quick distinction. In fact, the word distinction is the same word used in chapter 1 when it talked about the doubting person who prays. Remember we talked about that last week? When a person who prays with doubt, it's not talking about a person who is questioning God and struggling. It's talking about the person who makes a distinction in their head on what God can do or cannot do and which requests they should bring to God and which requests they shouldn't. That's the distinction. So it's the same way with favoritism. It's the same problem here with the prayer idea. You are playing the judge of which people, based on superficial look, not based on their character knowing them, who are you going to entrust yourself into, who are you going to show honor to, and who you're not going to show honor to. Does that make sense what favoritism is? It's okay to spend more time with your family than a stranger. It's okay to like, Korean food over Mexican food, right? That's not the sin. It is just look at two people and making a quick distinction and you're playing judge. So now let's look at why does James say favoritism is such a big deal? Let's look at the vertical reason. First, it's because God does not show partiality. Deuteronomy 10:17. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God, who is not partial and takes no bribes. So here's the idea. During that time, people, the rich and powerful, were able to bribe judge to show them partiality, right? That's partiality. Treat me better than you would a common person. Here's a little money. Here, Deuteronomy is saying God does not take bribes, meaning you cannot influence him to show partiality or favoritism to you. God is a God of justice. He will deal with people justly, regardless of their income, their power, and how they look or background. God is fair, in other words. Galatians 2:6, notice what the Apostle Paul says here. Now, he's talking about the time when he went back to Jerusalem to talk to the apostles to make sure that they were on the same page and that he got their blessings to go to the Gentiles. But notice how he describes them. Galatians chapter 2, verse 6. And from those who seem to be influential, and then he puts in parentheses, what they were makes no difference to me. God shows no partiality. Those, I say, who seemed influential added nothing to me. Do you know what the Apostle Paul is saying? So I talked to the quote-unquote influential apostles and people, but I don't care if they're influential. God doesn't care. He doesn't show partiality, but they seem influential. Anyways, Peter, James, and John, what are, these influential, they didn't add anything to me. In other words, they weren't the ones that told me what to say. I had an independent source. They had an independent source, and we were on the same page. So what Paul is saying is this. He didn't treat people with extra honor just because they seem influential, because God doesn't do that. You see that? So, since God does not play favorites, James says we, his people, should not be playing favorites.